It is time to predict the match card for AEW World's End, taking place in Long Island, New York at the Nassau Coliseum on December 30th. We already know the main event of this show will be MJF, the hometown boy, defending the AEW World Championship against Samoa Joe. Should be a great match. I'm enjoying the storyline building to that so far. We'll hopefully get some inklings as well with who the devil is in AEW. But what about the rest of the card? That's what I'm going to predict for you here today. And of course, we do know that AEW are currently holding their first ever Continental Classic, 2 groups of 6, and of course it's a round robin sort of tournament. The winner of each group will face each other at World's End. So we've got the gold group and we've got the blue group. I'm going to predict facing off at this show, we're going to have Bryan Danielson winning his group because, well, this sort of feels like it was built around for him, really, despite the fact he's got the injured eye at this moment. I think he'll be taking on Swerve Strickland in the final. Of course, the winner does win the Continental Classic Championship, along with the Ring of Honor Championship and the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship. So whoever wins these sets of 3 titles becomes a Triple Crown champion and will be a busy bunny going into 2024. I think the match makes a lot of sense. Swerve can continue his heel antics as well, targeting Danielson's eye. Danielson, like I say, built for the round robin style action. I think as well he'd be a perfect candidate to hold those 3 championships going into 2024, having, you know, matches for New Japan Strong, having, you know, matches as well carrying the Ring of Honor brand, along with, of course, as well being that Continental Classic champion. But Swerve as well, the momentum is behind him right now, and of course, well, the more Swerve we get, the better in AEW. Next, we'll talk about the TNT Championship. I think Christian Cage and Adam Copeland will wrestle one more time at World's End. They are due to compete on Dynamite on December the 6th. I think there'll be some form of screwy finish that leads to having to do one more match, and I think the stipulation match will be perfect because we have a lot of outsiders involved in this. Of course, Christian Cage has, well, Kill Switch, has Nick Wayne. Of course, Adam Copeland has taken both out on the road here, but what's to say that Christian Cage doesn't have more members waiting backstage in the wing to take on Adam Copeland. Adam Copeland has had Darby Allin, had Sting in his corner previously in this rivalry, so I think the only way to settle this is inside a steel cage. It's been a while since AEW has actually brought the steel cage out to play. Of course, we know Adam Copeland in his latter WWE days used the Hell in a Cell match to end a lot of his rivalries. We don't really have that style of structure in AEW, so the steel cage is perfect here, despite the fact that both are perhaps more known for the ladder match, which could be an alternative stipulation to have for Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. Next match we'll talk about will be the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Ricky Starks and Big Bill defending against the Golden Jets, Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho. Of course, we know that the Golden Jets are currently the #1 contenders for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Jericho was taken out backstage, of course, by Big Bill and Ricky Starks. We do know Kenny Omega will be actually competing on Collision this week, going against Ethan Page. Of course, Collision is mainly where Ricky Starks and Big Bill do their business in AEW. So expect perhaps a beatdown after this match when Kenny gets the win, and I think Chris Jericho will return on that show, also on Collision, because it will be taking place, of course, in his homeland of Canada. What happens when it comes to the pay-per-view? Well, let's predict a little bit of results here. I could see perhaps Don Callis' family getting involved, perhaps maybe help the heels retain, because Starks and Bill have not held those titles for very long. However, they could be the first challengers should Omega and Jericho pick up the win. Don't rule out Don Callis' family getting involved at the last moment of this match. I hope, though, it sticks strictly to a regular tag team affair. Moving over to the TBS Championship, we've got Julia Hart, the champion, who's doing some incredible work right now. It seems to have started something with Abaddon, so will that carry over to World's End? That'll be interesting to see. I think it's going to be another TV match. Personally, I can see that happening on a Collision. I think Julia Hart will retain. I think we're going to get one more match with Kris Statlander, who's also, I believe, from the New Jersey area, if I'm not mistaken, so it's a great opportunity to put her in front of a hometown crowd. And of course, her and Julia have one more match. Can Julia beat Kris one-on-one? Julia won this championship in a freeway, and of course she did lose against Kris Statlander at Wrestle Dream. So for me, it makes perfect sense to do this match one last time, and I think Julia Hart would get the win this time around. Next, we'll talk about the AEW Women's World Championship Timeless Toni Storm. I thought it was going to be taken on Sky Blue at this show, but actually it's going to be taking place on Dynamite instead. So I'm guessing there will be a new opponent based for Timeless Toni Storm. And of course, she did have a bit of complaints about some blonde that got interfered in her stuff. And it was to do with a photo shoot, something like this. So looking at the roster, who could it be? I'm going to predict Taya Valkyrie. Someone who's reliable, someone who knows what they're doing in the ring, someone I think could give a good match for Toni Storm. Yes, Taya Valkyrie seemingly not really been featured much on AEW TV recently, but the fact that Toni is blamed some blonde, unless it's a return of Jamie Hayter, that's something I'd be quite interested in, but I'm not aware of that anytime soon. So I'll go for Taya Valkyrie. Like I say, this week's AEW tapings are all in Canada, so I think there's a good way you could push Taya Valkyrie into that position. It gives Toni another big win on pay-per-view, retaining that championship. Next, let's talk about the International Championship. Orange Cassidy I have defending against Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston a little bit overzealous going into the Continental Classic, putting both his Ring of Honor World Championship on the line along with the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship. Well, he's lost both matches in the group stages so far. I don't see him qualifying from his group to get to the final. Therefore, Eddie Kingston will lose both championships. And of course, well, a man who's been quite international, if you will, having the Ring of Honor World Championship and the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship, perhaps maybe Tony Khan will say, look, you've been brave putting both belts on the line, let's give you a match at the International Championship. But I do think Eddie Kingston could be starting to go back to the dark side. He's been fighting the demons so far in the Continental Classic. I think they may overcome him when it comes to a match here against Orange Cassidy. We'll talk about the Blackpool Combat Club next. I'm going to have them in a match against the Mogul Embassy. The reason I've got this 6-man tag team match is because I think Swerve and Moxley will go into the final week against each other, both with perfect records, and I think that, well, someone's going to cost Moxley this match. I think that's how Swerve will get his victory over the line to get to the match against Danielson, and I think that leaves a perfect rivalry then with the BCC and the Mogul Embassy, and that could even lead with Moxley and Swerve going into the start of 2024 as well. The BCC, of course, will pick up the win here, and possibly, who knows, the Ring of Honor World 6-man Tag Team Championships as well, although if you ask me, I prefer AEW and ROH to remain separately when it comes to their championships. Next match will be FTR versus the House of Black, of course, Malachi Black and Buddy Matthews. This one's been building nicely on Collision for the last few weeks, of course. Teasing the idea of FTR joining House of Black, I think everybody knew that was not really going to happen, but we've seen the beatdown, of course, happen from House of Black to FTR. House of Black have actually spoke about the Blackpool Combat Club as well. There has been on and off rivalries on Collision for the last number of weeks. However, with the Continental Classic going on, I think that keeps the BCC out of this for now, and I think we just simply get FTR versus the House of Black. For me, I'd like to see the House of Black win this, but be interested to see how it will play out when it comes to pay-per-view. We'll follow that up with Miro versus Andrade, because, well, Miro has promised CJ Perry, his wife, that he will not attack her client Andrade. How long will that last for is probably the big question going on to it here. I do think, obviously, the match is inevitable. I'll predict it for World's End. We'll have to wait and see if storylines play out where the match does happen here or at a later date. And last but not least, we're going to go with the Young Bucks versus the Dark Order, because, well, John Silver, of course, from New Jersey as well. They want to get him on the show in some format, even if it is on the buy-in. And I think the Young Bucks obviously going for a bit of a character change right now. Dark Order probably would be seen as the hometown favourites going in, so it's kind of okay to do this match as well. They've got great chemistry, they've wrestled many times before, so yeah, I think this will be perfect for the buy-in. I would see the Bucks though going over. So that's my predicted match card for AEW World's End. What matches do you want to see at World's End? Let me know in the comments below right now. Want to say a big thank you as well before the end of the video to On The Mark Wrestling Podcast for the Honorary Mark t-shirt. Really kind of you guys to send that over to us as well. You can get that on their store right now, which I'll leave in the description of this video. Amazing merchandise and an amazing podcast as well. Go and subscribe to their channel. If you've enjoyed this video then, make sure to subscribe to this channel, hit the like button as well. It really helps the channel a long way in growing on YouTube. Like I say, share with a friend, and as well leave a comment below. I'll see you for the next video, and if you can't get enough of SCW, check out these videos on the side of your screen right now. Take care, all the best, and I'll see you next time.